You're probably wondering, who is this guy that's going to teach me rural sociology? Where's that accent from? I know I haven't yet introduced myself. As you know, my name is Johann Strube. I'm a PhD candidate in rural sociology and also have a master's degree in landscape planning and landscape architecture from the University of Natural Resources and Life Sciences, Vienna, Austria, also known as BOKU. My accent and I are from northeastern Germany. I was born in the socialist part of Germany when the country was still divided. But I was only 4 when Germany was reunited, so I don't remember much from that time. I spent my first years in a little village, but later moved to the harbor city of Rostock. As most people who grew up by the sea, I miss it dearly. During high school and my undergrad, I played piano and guitar in bands. I even majored in piano for a couple of years. I was also engaged in a number of political causes, mostly around human rights, environmental sustainability and anti-racism. One event was critical in my transition towards academia and the social sciences specifically. In December 2009, I attended the World Climate Summit in Copenhagen, Denmark, as an activist. Me and thousands of other activists protested to hold the politicians of the world accountable to pass strong climate protection goals. President Obama was just elected in the US, and there was a sense that with his leadership, the world would finally wake up to the cause of protecting the climate and massively reduce greenhouse gas emissions. None of that happened, and instead we were rounded up by the police and had to wait for hours in the bitter cold of Denmark's winter until they finally let us go. I was so frustrated that I realized that playing music and protesting on the streets wouldn't do much to bring about the social and environmental change I felt was needed. So I changed gears and enrolled in the landscape planning and landscape architecture program at BOKU in Austria. I hoped that the program would give me the skills to become a planner who could help communities transition towards a more sustainable, more socially just future. It was a good program, but I eventually realized that the understanding of social dynamics and power were underdeveloped in the planning discipline. So I gravitated towards the social sciences to better understand why people do what they do as they shape the landscape. I worked under the supervision of Professor Bernhard Thompson, a sociologist and social anthropologist who greatly influenced my thinking about economy. We'll read some of her work later in this course. Anyhow, I ended up doing my master's thesis on pockets of peasantness in upstate New York as a visiting scholar at Cornell University. I was both perplexed and fascinated by the many contradictions in this country and decided to focus my research on North America. I obviously didn't grow up in this country, and you have to excuse me if there are certain cultural references that I don't get. On the other hand, I often found that looking on American society through the eyes of a foreigner often allowed me to see things and name things that many Americans learned not to see or not to name. There's a methodological debate about who's best positioned to describe a culture or a society, those who grew up in it or those who approach it from the outside. At the end of the day, both approaches have their advantages and disadvantages, and I'm making the most of it. All of my academic work at that time was related to food and agriculture, so it made sense for me to do my PhD in rural sociology. Penn State accepted my application, and here I am. Since coming here, I've been involved in a number of research projects related to agriculture, climate change, environmental justice, and the food system of indigenous peoples, both in the US and in Canada. I'm just writing up my doctoral dissertation on the impacts of hydro dams in Minnesota and Ontario on indigenous Ojibwe communities in the boundary waters. When I'm not working, I write songs, I bake bread, and enjoy camping and hiking. Now I want you to tell me about you. I ask you to submit a short selfie video in which you introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from, what your major is or will be, and what you are hoping to get out of this class. Tell us one thing that you are passionate about. Please post this video in the discussion thread below. Also, take some time to check out the videos posted by your peers. Looking forward to meeting you all.